think this is a very important conversation.
Thank you.
In my experience, I was taught that we must make a choice between science and spirituality. We must choose either science or spirituality, and for me, I never made that distinction. Even as a child growing up, I always believed that when I studied science, chemistry, geology, biology, physics, what we call science, ultimately I was studying the inner mechanism of a higher power, of a greater being, to work with the crisis, to find solutions. We're living a time of extremes. People know that something is wrong. The world of the past no longer works. We have reached a point where unsustainable ways of thinking and living have caught up with us. And so now they're saying, if the old answers don't work, what's the new answer? And I don't claim to know what the new answer is, but I believe that what science is telling us, the new discoveries, that life is not random, human life is not random, that we're deeply connected to our bodies, deeply connected to the earth. Civilization is cyclic. We have had advanced civilizations in the past that had experiences like ours that we can learn from if we have the wisdom to accept what they left. And the biology, the new biology that is telling us that nature is based upon cooperation. The problem is that that information doesn't make it into the mainstream, typically. Now, you're the exception. This is mainstream media, and we're having this conversation. But typically, the new discoveries that overturn 300 years of scientific thinking, those new discoveries are not being shared in mainstream media, mainstream documentaries, mainstream textbooks, mainstream classrooms.
Why is that?
And what that means is for the average person, we are being taught the science that is now obsolete, number one. And it's the very science that has led in many cases to the unsustainable ways of living that create the crises that we see today. So can I give an example?
Yeah.
Charles Darwin. I'm going to talk about Darwin. I have a lot of respect for Charles Darwin as a scientist. I think he was a good scientist. And in 1859, he published his first book. And he said himself, the purpose of his book was to try to move the world beyond religion into science to explain what previously had only been explained by religious traditions. The big questions of life. Where does life come from? Where does human life come from? How do things work in this world? And Charles Darwin himself said, he said that when new discoveries overturn my theories, he said my theories will fall and the new discoveries will then become the new theory. So Darwin allowed and expected that his theories would fall, but today mainstream science is refusing to allow some of Darwin's most important theories to fall. One of those is the theory of competition in nature. We have been led to believe from Darwin's theories that that nature is based upon a model of violent competition and conflict. So for example, Darwin would look at ants in nature. He would look at an anthill and he would see that one nest of ants would capture another nest, but they didn't kill them, they enslaved them and made that colony work for them. And Darwin said, what I see here must be a small example of a law that applies to everyone. And he began to apply those ideas in his theories. Well, the result is, his book was published in 1859. Modern civilization, the world that we know, is largely based upon the belief that nature itself is modeled after survival of the strongest.
A jungle.
Is Darwin's language. Darwin called it survival of the strongest. Later it was called survival of the fittest. But Darwin's own words, he said survival of the strongest. So the economic system that is collapsing now in the world is based upon survival of the strongest. The corporate system that is having so much turmoil right now, the way we're solving our problems between nations in the Middle East and Africa, within our own countries, it's all based on a model that we now know is obsolete, because the new discoveries are showing us not only is nature not based upon competition, It is actually based upon a model of cooperation.